George, I want my own theme song.
Nothing wrong with Bolero because it's like, it's a very sexy song.
Which one?
Bolero. That's our theme song. And Chris has a problem.
I got a lot of problems. Yeah.
He's very funny.
Okay, you're on, Tiffany.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay. Just tell me when.
When?
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Filter 90211. I'm Tiffany Rothman with my amazing co-host Chris Sloan. And we have a wonderful special guest is joining us. She's an incredibly talented actress who just worked with the one and only Catherine Zeta-Jones. Please welcome the amazing Kim Marie Farris to the show.
Thank you.
Hi, Kim.
Hi.
Hi.
How was your week?
Very good. Very good. Very active.
Good. Chris?
It was a good week. Yeah. Any week that allows me to be here on Sunday was a good week. So here I am. It was a good week.
Productive?
It was. It's always productive. Yes.
That's good to know.
Was your week productive?
Yes, I had 4 auditions.
Nice.
You're a rock star. Every time I talk to you, you have like, oh, I got 7 auditions, 4 auditions.
And,
You're killing it.
well, we'll see. And then on Friday was the anniversary of the day that I left Saigon 48 years ago.
How did that feel
Oh,
to
it's
think about it?
a lot of memories. We just flew out peacefully. We were lucky. And an hour and a half later, they bombed the airport. So I guess I must be very blessed.
Absolutely.
And yesterday was International Dance Day. Of course, that's really bring back a lot of memories of my performance. And today is the day that South Vietnam surrendered to the North 48 years ago.
There's a lot going on the last couple of days for you. It probably makes you very appreciative, doesn't it?
I guess so. I'm
you've-
always trying to be appreciative and grateful for what I have so I can be happy.
Yes, yes, but that's a lot to think about in the last 3 days. That's a lot of heavy weight, a lot of emotional weight. Yeah.
Yep. So, maybe we should read this. Emotional weight. Speaking about emotional, maybe this could help us. Discover a new path to inner peace with Shirley's spiritual yoga meditation healer, chakra balancing, energy cleansing, and more. Call 424-542-9070 now for a free consultation and start your transformation today. All forms of payment accepted.
Absolutely. Our sponsor, Shirley.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
You
I'm
did.
excited to have Kim here. So Kim and I have been communicating for several weeks to line her up for today's show. And I was so excited to have her on the show that last week I sent her a message. So are you ready? And she's like, yeah, but it's not until next week. So I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. My bad. But I was so excited to have her that I thought she was going to be on last week. But she's on this week. So now, finally, you're here, Kim.
Yes. I'm very happy
Thank
to be
you.
here.
And she's a soldier because she's a bit injured and she still is here. If you want to tell the story.
Yes, your foot injured. Was that in the movie?
No, it was a very funny freak accident. Just getting ready for work very early in the morning. And I had to be at work at 6 a.m. And I was going full speed ahead and completely forgot there was a credenza right there. And my barefoot went right into the lake. So I fractured my toe, probably a little bit of the other toe, and probably a little bit of my foot. And so I have to wear this lovely cumbersome boot in the meantime. And it's a drag, I won't lie.
Talk about waking up in the morning. That'll wake
Yeah,
you up,
right?
stubbing your toe like that. I mean, I just,
Definitely.
like, sometimes I'll just hit the corner of something with my toe, my big toe. And man, like you see stars.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was trying to hold the pain in. I'm like,
Did you hear anything crack?
Oh.
Not necessarily, but I knew once I put my shoes on and walking at work, I thought, oh, I broke it. I know I did. And yeah, I was right.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Oh, thank you. I am too.
And I'm not surprised because after talking with you in our pre-production show, I could just tell already that you're a trooper, and it sounds like there's nothing you wouldn't do to get the job done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thanks
That's
for being here.
very admirable.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. And so Kim is a poet. Okay, she's a writer, a poet. She's an actor. She's a post-production specialist as well. So we were
woman
talking a
with
lot.
many
She's
hats.
got so many skills.
Yep.
So talented. She does voiceovers, and we were playing around with some voiceovers before the show where she was doing many different actual real life people. So she was doing Catherine Zeta-Jones. You were also doing Finola
Hughes.
and she did a phenomenal Finola Hughes. And who else did you do?
Marissa Tomei.
Marissa Tomei.
Biological clock.
And she not only sounds like them, she looks like them when she's doing them. So talented. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Marissa told me,
It's fun.
When she go, my biological clock
Yeah.
going like this.
So I think what grabbed my attention when you first arrived today, we were just talking, and you were talking about how you kind of like horror,
Oh, yes.
dark stories, which
Yeah.
you immediately caught my attention. And then we started talking about, your poetry and talked about Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, yes.
So you were saying how you have a book, and it took kind of years of everything you've thought, and it just comes out, and I don't want to ruin it, so you
No, it's fine.
tell the story of how it evolved from the beginning when you knew you had to start writing. And this is going back a long time ago where technology was different, maybe no technology based on what we have now.
Right.
And how you would capture the material for your book. And I want you to tell us about the book.
Okay. Well, it definitely it was a long time in the making. I started writing poetry when I was in junior high, and it didn't really start to kick in until a little bit later, but then it was like an entity where this verse would just pop in my head and I would write, and it would usually correlate with however I was feeling at the time, whether it was sadness, elation, like a crush or something like that. And I had to write right then and there because if I didn't, it would disappear.
And how would you do that back then? How would you write it down?
Depending on where I was, I would write on a napkin or a back of a scrap piece of paper or something like that. It just whatever I had available to write on, I would do it. And I still have the napkins from years ago, and they're still in fantastic condition because I'm very particular. It's like, okay, it's pristine. And my mother always wanted me to put a book together. And I was very just, I don't know. It's like maybe I don't know if I'm that good and so forth. And it wasn't until unfortunately, after she passed away from cancer 6 years ago. And I wasn't aware of independent publishing, self-publishing, because I really wanted my book to be as organic as possible, to have it exactly how I wanted it, and to put it in a way that to basically choreograph it in a sense where, like, the first section is love and light, and it's all about love and crushes and just happiness, and then the next chapter is darkness and despair, and there was sadness and very deep dark depression that I battled for quite some time. And then The next chapter is Hope and
Electric company came and they're like, you got to pay your bill. It came on a Sunday. Man, they're desperate. I mean, you know, with all the utility increases, gas went up, like natural gas and electric and everything. And they came here and they were like, hey, I mean, give us some money. So I gave him a $10 bill and he went away and we're back on. So
Oh, that's
welcome
great
back.
because, you know, gas, at least we don't have a gas leak. You know, gas
Oh,
leak
goodness.
can kill you. Listen to this. Mystery gas leak killed 11 in northern India. A gas leak in the city of Ludhiana in Punjab state caused the deaths of 11 people, including 3 children who were found unconscious in their homes. The sort and type of the gas are still unknown, but authorities suspect that someone dumped toxic chemicals into the sewer. The area was sealed off and evacuated as teams tried to identify the gas and prevent further casualties.
I mean, it's pretty scary if they don't
That
know
is
what kind
scary.
of gas it is.
I know.
Like,
And 3
mystery
children?
gas?
Are you kidding me?
Oh, my goodness.
So there's a mystery gas leak. Interesting.
It could kill people.
Yeah. So we were talking with Kim. Kim, you were talking about self-publishing. You wanted the book, your book, to be special, and your mother was a big motivation
Yes.
behind the book.
That's wonderful. Good mom.
And you were just getting into there's a chapter on. Well, I'll let you talk about the chapters.
Then I started with Love and Light, which is about love and crushes and happiness, and then the darkness and despair, sadness, depression, even eating disorders. And then in the 3rd chapter was Hope and Inspiration, where it basically is that, just how the moments of enlightenment and the positive attitude and the reason basically why I'm still here is the the gratitude that I have, and I wanted to share that. And my mother was always telling me how much she wanted me to put the book together, and I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't know, and I didn't have the confidence at the time to go to big publishers, but like I was mentioning, that I really wanted it to be my own. And then I found out about independent publishing, and it was fantastic. It was this great outlet that I can put my book together the way I wanted and put it out there, because I did it for my mother, and I did it also because there are a lot of poems in there that I would hope people could resonate with. And there's a lot about relationships, abusive relationships, what I've experienced, and I'm sure what other people have experienced, body image, the eating disorders, but then love. And, there's, the flip side, the happy side. And one of my favorite poems is You Are the Light at the End of the Tunnel, that I wrote about someone very dear to me. And at that time, and even a friend of mine copied it to send to his boyfriend, which I thought was very sweet. It's like, oh, that's nice. Just remember, I wrote it, not you. And so,
As long as you get the royalties,
right. And and I remember when I received the book in the mail. And I was so nervous. And my hands were shaking. I even have a video of it somewhere. And I opened it up and I just started to cry. I actually started to cry when I was done. I'm getting chills. I started to cry when I completed it, when I knew that it was done, when I had the manuscript together. And then I cried again when my very dear friend Bobby helped me put it together, because he had done it before. And that sense of completion and the reality that, oh my God, it's out there. It's going to be out there. And then I think I cried again when I saw that it was available online. And I mean, I must have cried so many times, and it was more of a happy cry. And when I opened it and saw it, and even on the video, I say, this is for you, Mom. And I think she would have been really proud of me on it. And it's. I felt really proud of myself that I did that, and it took a lot of guts. Because there's some things in there that's pretty dark, and And then a year or two later, I came out with my second book, The Heart Still Beats. And that was inspired by the pandemic. Because with the pandemic, I mean, oh my God, talk about self-realization and going inward, because we were quarantined. Everyone was quarantined, and you had to be in your home, and you couldn't go out, and really, and it was also a time learning about not only yourself, but learning about the people around you, the true selves, and some are awesome, some are great, and some were just awful, just the toxicity, and it's like, wow. And again, what I was feeling, this one was a lot easier because now I was pro and independent publishing, and it just felt easier to put it together. I knew what I was doing this time, and and I was asked, what do you want from this? Do you want? And some people say, oh, I want to be a bestseller. I want to make a lot of money. Blah blah blah. Well, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. But that's not my point. My point is, if one poem resonates, if it touches someone in a way that it's like, oh, I know exactly what she's saying. I know what you're talking about. Then great, because they're not alone. And especially nowadays with mental health being a very common topic in the media and so forth. Even that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I love Jason Sudeikis had a little video I saw on how he really wants to talk about mental health and so forth, because in his show Ted Lasso, and it's just fantastic. So it just feels good to be vulnerable, and it's scary, but it feels good at the same time.
What's your mother's name?
Philomena Duran.
Philomena. So
Beautiful.
If
Thank you. Yes.
If Philomena was sitting right here right now, what would you tell her?
You're gonna make me cry. I already am, I'm sure. Thank you, and I love you, and I miss you tremendously. And I'm sorry it took so long to put the book together, but I feel some way that you are proud of me, and I want you to know that I appreciate and grateful that you believed in me, and that I'm doing it, and I'm not giving up. That's one thing. It's like I don't give up. And so thank you. And again, I miss you.
How long has she passed away?
6 years.
6 years.
6 years ago. Cancer. And I spent the last months taking care of her. And as horrifying as it was, what she had to go through, I'm so glad I was there to be there for her. And cancer sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I lost someone I love very much 5 years ago to cancer. My cousin. It was terrible.
Right.
I can't imagine how you were going through.
Yeah. So.
Well, Mother's Day is coming up.
Yeah.
And, I lost my mother too. And I was happy enough to be with her at the very end when she took her last breath. And the thing about mothers, they're just so amazing. They give you the confidence and strength you need in life, right? And it seems like she really helped with the strength and motivation that you could write this book and publish it. And I just think it's amazing. When I think of mothers, I think of my mother, and listening to the story of your mother, just the power that they have in our lives. It's incredible. And when they're gone, and they're really not gone, in my opinion, maybe physically, but everything seems to be that much more magnified about what they brought into your life. And the appreciation for them and being in your life. Yeah. And it's something that you can't, unfortunately, experience until after they're gone. I mean, you could appreciate somebody when they're in your life, but there's a different appreciation when they're
absolutely.
gone. And I'm sure she'd be really proud.
Oh,
and
yes.
is proud and was proud of you.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
For everything you've done.
Thank you.
And but when you're in the process of writing a book like that, you're reliving those emotions.
Oh, yes.
Take me through that, because now you're forced to go back mentally into those states of mind to a point, and maybe it drew you back completely. I don't know. But what was it like in the process?
With my first book especially, I remember there was one particular poem that dealt with a relationship I was in, very abusive, not physically, but emotionally, mentally, narcissistic behavior, and it was a very trying time. And I remember it's a 2-page poem. It was a 2-page poem that just kept on writing. And I read it to my sister. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't put this in the book. It's too deep. It's too dark. And my sister said, no, you need to put that in your book, because people will know what you're talking about. People have experienced that. And I remember when I was reading it to her, I started crying, because I definitely did. It put me right back to where I was at that time. And, but you know what? I feel fortunate I can do that sometimes. I mean, yes, there are times that I can forget about things that have happened in the past, but it's the way that I cope with it now.
What is the way of coping?
It's just, well, I got out of the relationship, which was definitely a plus, and that took some time.
At least you were able to get out.
Well, it took a long time. And I was very weak, I will admit it. It was just I didn't have the strength in my soul, and I felt very low self-esteem, low self-confidence, and I think I even went to therapy at some point and talked about it, and was able to get the coping skills. And, thankfully we didn't live together or anything like that. And so it was, I finally just said, we're done, and he didn't take it too well. But
he accepted.
But
that was
it's
good.
like, sorry, dude, you have no choice. And then he moved away, and so that was nice. And but yeah, it's all, and even the coping skills of just really going inward and believing in myself, and that was getting back, even the spiritual part of me that was lacking, and that helped me out tremendously.
And it's in the book.
It is. That's more with a hope and inspiration. Mm-hmm.
So you had mentioned a part of the book where you have the light at the end of the tunnel. Mm-hmm. Would you be willing to share with us who that light was for you?
Who the person was?
Yes.
Just a very dear friend. A very dear friend that was with me, not physically, but he was there for me when I was going through a very trying time. And he was genuine. He felt genuine. And I always enjoyed talking to him and spending time with him. And he just made me feel real, in a sense, that I think of the Velveteen Rabbit. I don't know. It just, there was something about our friendship that I just felt good. And even though we didn't talk to each other all the time because he's very busy in his line of work, every time that we did, it just was like a breath of fresh air, just like, oh, it's so nice just to talk to you, even if it's for a few minutes, and just that little bit. And it seemed like I was always going through some trying time of some sort, and so he just happened to show up at the times when I really needed it, and so I wrote about it, and I wrote about him.
Does he know about this?
I don't think so.
Are you going to show him?
Well, he's read it. I know he's read it because he has a book.
Okay.
But I don't think he knows it's about him. And or maybe I did tell him. Maybe I did tell him briefly, but I know I haven't seen him in a while because he's out of the country. He's working in Europe. But it was a really good friendship that we had. And we still have, I believe, But at that time, he was my light at the end of the tunnel.
So you mentioned that May is Mental Awareness Month. And, a lot of what we're talking about is focused on our mental well-being, mm-hmm. right? What we go through as individuals. And how affected are you in your life at this point as far as people that have been in your life and are now gone. So you mentioned your mother, right? Anybody else?
Oh, yeah. This is just going to get really emotional, isn't it?
That's fine.
Years ago, I had a friend named Scott. And, God, I had the biggest crush on him. Oh, my God. Just such a crush. And he was perfect to me. I mean, he was cute. He liked to dance. We liked the same music. And he was always fun to talk to and everything. And he was older. He was probably 7 years older than me. And I was like 16. And we were friends for the longest time. And I remember I had foot surgery. I actually had foot surgery on my other foot because I worked in Macy's at the time, and I had to get, and it just messed up my feet, or at least that one. And I remember him waiting at the house and ready to carry me into the house because I was so out of it from the surgery and so forth. And but we had a really nice time. That was like on my birthday, I think. But
so he was carrying you over the threshold?
Yeah, you kind of.
Was that a prelude to something?
I know. Well, that's what I was hoping for. But like a couple weeks prior, it was Valentine's Day, and we had a really, really nice time together. And it was just like this light came on. I'm like, oh my God, I want to marry this man. I'm going to marry this man. I am in love. I'm in love with this man. And he was giving me the idea, and I felt he was into it too. But then something happened, and he fell off the face of the earth. He disappeared. And I'm like, what happened?
What happened?
So I don't know. I didn't know at the time. And then, I was angry. I was so angry because I had a hard time trusting people, especially guys, because my relationship at that time had ended, and I just was so done already. And anyways.
So you thought you thought he left you?
He told me that you need to trust people again, and I said, "What, you mean you?" And he said, "Yes, okay." And so I let my guard down, and then he just split.
Disappears.
And so I was just angry as angry could be. And then I ran into him like 6 months later, and it seemed like he was trying to apologize, but he didn't directly apologize, and I just couldn't trust anything.
What happened?
Well, 6 months, well, a little bit, February 14th, the following year, I felt something weird, Valentine's Day. I felt something very weird. And then a couple days later, found out he committed suicide on Valentine's Day. And
so he killed himself.
And I did not know that he was going through severe manic depression. I had no idea. And, he hid it pretty well for all the time that I knew him. And it just killed me. And to find out that my picture was the only picture he kept, because his thing was whenever there was a relationship, he would destroy any remembrance of anybody, any girlfriend whatsoever. And for some reason, he saved my photos. And I never did get to read the letter, because there was a letter. And but it just killed me. And it's still to this day just breaks my heart, because and it just segueing into mental health and suicide. And look, I've had some really dark times. I've had dark times, and that thought, even the ideation that's crossed my mind. But I'm still here. I'm not going to do anything stupid, because I know it's going to pass.
He might feel that you're better off without him because of his manic depression.
It's very possible. I really don't know, but it did inspire. In fact, my third poetry book that's coming out, there's a lot of repressed, a lot of things in the back of my mind in regards to him. and the people around him that I'm finally letting it out after so many years. And it's not anything you get over. And it's like really important to watch the signs for anybody that you know that is dealing with depression. But sometimes you just don't know. I mean, like the therapist knows, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, so that was a really big kicker.
And you had mentioned a little while ago about the pandemic, and there was a spike in suicide rates.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, and I think probably everywhere, people just couldn't handle it. So I can only imagine if you're going through struggles to begin with, and then when the pandemic hit, it probably just multiplied it, because now you're alone.
Yeah.
Right. And I've lost somebody in my life, actually several people in my life, to suicide.
Oh.
A nephew, a really good friend, ex-roommate of mine. Suicide's difficult, like you said. It's different than losing somebody as far as death in a different way. It's hard to explain, And getting back into Mental Awareness Month is that I think as a society we are more attuned now to people looking for signs. But sometimes, in a busy world, it's really hard to see signs because a lot of them are going to be subtle. Oh, yeah. And as human beings, we go through a lot of different swings and emotions to begin with. It doesn't mean everybody's thinking about suicide. Mm-hmm. I think, what's challenging to me is how do you decipher the true symptoms of somebody thinking about committing suicide? And Tiffany, you're trained working with people. What are your thoughts? What should we be looking for if somebody is in trouble that deep?
Well, when I was a school psychologist, I would read the test or do the test. And when I stand that trouble, that means somebody may about to or wanted to hurt themselves. And it was very, very difficult because when you work for the city, mm-hmm. it's less restrictive. Mm-hmm. They don't really pay attention to that. They want you to do something that less to save money more than to help the person. Yeah. So when I sent it, I would tell the parents to get their own lawyers and get psychiatric report. And I caught it. I think I caught it a couple of times, at least, that I know of. This is so long ago, because one time I got the report and I told the parents, I said, I don't mean to upset you, but I think you should get your own lawyer and psychiatric report quickly, because I think she may try to hurt herself. And guess what? She tried, but she didn't work because they got her. Yeah. She tried it every month, every week, every day. It's happened. And they feel that they not that you are better off than them, because one woman adopted a lovely, lovely teenager, brilliant, talented, she's a great actress too. She always got the lead role in school.
Nice.
And she would attempt it to kill herself. Telly, at one point, that the parents had to sleep next to her. Oh. And then she would break down and say, you should never adopted me. I'm ruining your life. I'm not good for you. But guess what? She's her parents' favorite because she was so brilliant and creative in many ways. And it does happen.
Yeah.
People are not selfish when they kill themselves.
Right.
They feel that they're better. They're saving you. They're better off dead, so you can have a better life.
So, in your experience, Tiffany, what would we look for as far as signs, like for the average person that's not trained in psychology? It could be friends, it could be coworkers, family. Like what would be things we would want to look out for?
They don't tell you, right? Normally they don't tell you, but they have. It's very difficult. Like you have to read between the lines, and it's hard because you don't know them well enough to jump to conclusions. So you have to see certain signs, like how depressed they are and how they try to cover it up. And sometimes like giving things away is part of it. Right. And it's I'm sorry, but I don't have really an answer to that.
So
I wish I could.
So giving things away.
Yeah, that's part of it. Or if they tell you, that's great, so you can help them. But a lot of time, they don't. I read about this gentleman who has a house by the cliff, beautiful cliff, and he said he saved several hundred of attempted suicide. They would go over there and they about to, and he said this is what he did. He just stayed very calm. He said, why don't we have a cup of tea and talk about it? The gentleman, of course, he retired. And after they have their tea, talk about it, they walk out, they leave happy.
It's great.
So it's difficult. If they tell you, you can. But if they don't, sometimes they get really angry, they get hostile. push people away. And most of the time when people are hostile, you don't stay near them. You like go away. But if a person is strong enough and just sit down and say like, now what's going on? Why are you so hostile? Clearly you're not angry at me. And you watch what happened and you just keep an eye on them. What else can you do? Because I didn't really focus. That's not my issue either. I didn't do a thesis on that. One of my colleagues, someone I went to school with, she did a thesis on suicide. And a lot of times it's more like the middle class or middle and upper class people. They tend to do that. Or people who went through a divorce. Believe it or not, that they try to do that. A lot more than you think, people that went through a divorce.
In your thoughts, Tiffany, you mentioned it maybe see more middle, upper class. Why?
I don't know. I spoke to my friend a long time ago. I said, like, maybe the expectation is a lot higher for them. And they have to live, like, this wonderful, perfect life. I mean, this was a long time ago. This like 30-something years ago when we discussed about it. Things could change now, but that's what happened. Like, Gloria Vanderbilt, her son jumped out the window, probably in front of her. That's what I heard. I wasn't there.
So as we're talking about this, and we talked about your book and your stories, and these are your real life stories. Yeah. You're exposing yourself. You got to be very courageous to do this. You know, I mean, I think we all have things about our lives that we probably don't want to tell people. We have a diary. We have everything in our minds, and maybe we write it down. But to put it out in a book, it takes a lot of courage. But it also stimulates creativity, and you're a very creative person. How did all this in your life allow you to become who you are as a performer?
You know, that's one of the things that, again, I felt very fortunate with that. I have that little box in my mind that I can, just, you know what, I'm going to let's go through the files and let's check out this memory, and I'm going to use this memory to put me in the place of this character, and I want to say I can almost cry on cue, and
man, I wish I could do that. I'll tell you, that's hard to do.
It was. I was in a play. I was in Murder on the Nile. Loved the movie. Loved the original movie. Loved it. I haven't seen the remake yet. That's Death on the Nile. But Murder on the Nile was the play. And I played the French maid. And I had to first belt out a scream. And I can really belt out a scream. And
sounds like you should be in a horror movie.
Oh, yeah. I would love to be in a horror movie. And you just tell me when, and I'm there. I have in fact, on my resume, it says blood-curdling scream.
So you could be a scream queen?
I could be a scream queen.
Okay, I like that.
Be awesome.
That.
So in the play, I had to belt out the scream and then just cry my eyes out to the point of just, trying to talk. And in addition to speaking, I had to speak in French, and it was awesome because I took 2 years of French and I'm finally using it. And it's just like, and I had this monologue in French, and I'm like, the whole thing. And oh my God.
You remember the monologue?
No. But it was great because not only did I have to belt out a scream, but I also had to cry every night, like 4 nights a week, and then also on Sunday, and then I also was shot and killed every night because it was a play. So, and I remember in the opening night, and I get shot, and I fall down, and you hear the whole crowd go, "Ooh!" And in my mind, I'm like, "Oh, that's so cool," And afterwards, they were saying, "How did you fall so gracefully?" I said, "Well, I've done some stunt work, and I've also been a dancer, and so I just." But there were times in the play where, the chair had to be just right. And if it wasn't, then my fall would not be very good. Or it would be good, but not physically. And one time I hit my head, and I had a bruise going down my leg. And, but it's all part of the craft, But it does help as an actor to be able to know the experiences that this character is going through, and plus, at least with me, it's very therapeutic. It really is. Just being able to get out there and even be someone else for a moment, and just really dive into that character.
When you fell, you screamed?
Oh, no. I screamed off stage, and then I'd be crying my eyes out, and then it wasn't until the next act that I was about to tell someone that I knew who was the murderer, and that's when the murderer shot me.
Of course.
Dun, dun,
Figures.
dun.
So you got that scream. That's great because
Oh, yeah.
the only time that I got compliment on my screaming was over the top erotic scream. It was like 15
Wow,
years ago.
erotic screams. Okay, so speaking of erotic screams, I'm going to read this news story here because it's perfect segue, and we'll go back into what we were saying. So, speaking of erotic screams, here's a news story: sperm donor who fathered 550 children told to stop donating sperm. A Dutch man who has fathered over 500 children around the world through sperm donation has been ordered to stop by a court in Amsterdam. Plug it up, snip it, do something. The court said that Ed, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, Ed Hobbins, donations posed a risk of incest and violated the rights of his offspring to know their biological origins.
Goodness.
Hoban said he was motivated. I guess I would be motivated too. He was motivated by altruism and did not charge money for his donations. So they were free sperm. But you know what, Ed? Man, plug it up, man. Plug it up. It's time to stop. So that's pretty interesting. So, I mean, that's a lot of sperm.
That's a lot.
I wonder if they know in ounces how much sperm that would be.
550
Not
children.
a thought I want to.
And that's the ones that worked. There's probably times that it didn't work and that sperm being used and it didn't conceive, right? There's always a deviation of error in biology. So that means that he had more specimens than 550. It doesn't work every time. At least I don't think it does. That's a lot of sperm. So anyway, Tiffany was talking about she's known for her screams that are more on the erotic side.
I was told to do it over the top.
And you did it well?
Yes.
Yeah.
So better than in Harry Met Sally.
So does that mean? So that means that you know how to fake it.
I guess. Since I never
Okay.
really faked it before.
Okay. I don't think I've ever faked it either. Guys don't fake it. Guys don't have. If you have, well, you know what? Maybe guys. You're not hearing anything?
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Can you
But
hear
you
me?
can't hear us.
Oh, I can.
Okay.
I can hear you.
So, what was I just saying now?
Spur.
Sperm, erotic.
Erotic
Oh, guys,
scream.
the only reason a guy would probably fake it is, we're talking, what's interesting is as we evolve, more and more things come out about people and males and females. So, there's a lot of commercials I see on TV now about, men that have problems, erectile dysfunction and now this Peyronie's is big, So my thought is there are problems that men have with that part of the body, and maybe they would fake it because they don't want to let down their partner, right? I would say for the most part men would only have to fake it because of a physical problem. Women fake it. Now I think what I've learned about women over the years, and now I have two women giggling and laughing at me. But I think I've been on Earth long enough to know that women fake it. I mean, it's not physical as much for women as it is for men. It's mental. It's emotional for women, right? So if you're not stimulated emotionally as well, you're going to fake it, right?
Yeah.
Because women are a little bit more emotional into intimacy than men. Men are more physical. So if a man has a physical dysfunction, he may need to fake it. But women can fake it for two reasons. One, I'm not physically being stimulated, okay? Or I'm not mentally and emotionally stimulated. I'm just not feeling it. I can't feel it. I'm not feeling it, so I'll just fake it.
Hurry up.
Right? And then you'll fake it quick, so it's over with. Right? And then the guy's going to be like, oh, what happened? I'm not done yet.
I'm so good. Looks like what is it Billy Crystal say? I am so good that when I'm on my honeymoon, my wife had to stop in the middle of everything and gave me a standing ovation.
One of the best movies ever.
Anyway, I think I sidetracked us so much I
Yeah.
forgot what I was going to take us back to. So we were talking about, Tiffany talked about her erotic screams. So let me ask you this. So you mentioned crying on cue, and, crying is probably the hardest thing to do for an actor. during that play, it was a play, right? What did you use to cry as far as your personal life? What was your motivation to cry?
My friend Scott,
Yeah.
the one I mentioned. Yeah.
So she collect all the memories and the feeling that she had for him when she found out that he died.
And you can just on cue, you
Pretty much.
you can bring it up.
Pretty much. Unless I'm so incredibly happy about something, then the tear ducts just won't flow. And but that's rarely the case. I was in a student film, and in the scene, it was a short film, and a newlywed couple. They had a big fight, and the husband storms off, and he never comes home. And she's calling the next morning to her mom, saying, you left, blah blah blah. And then she gets a call, and then to find out that he got killed in a car accident. And so when.
Sorry about that. I think I knocked something over.
So when she has to go to the morgue to
Identify.
and then identify. Yes, thank you. And then she comes home because she feels the presence, and that's when I break down, like I fall on the floor and start crying my eyes out. And the producer, the boom mic person, and the director, they all start crying. Oh my God. And then they're all, okay, we're going to do a close-up. Can you do it again? Oh no. Sure, I'll try. It's like after so many takes, it gets a little bit more of a challenge. But I mean, I can do it. But ooh.
What did you use that time for your motivation?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the same. No.
What's interesting is I tend to cry after I'm done doing something, and I watch myself on a replay, and then I just look at my acting and I start crying. I just wish I could do that on screen. Maybe they should put a mirror in front of me, and then I'll just see myself and I'll just start crying.
No.
I tend to cry afterwards when I watch myself.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of watching myself sometimes. I'm like,
I cry. Yeah, it's bad.
No, but thinking about your loved one
Yeah.
and their death
Yeah.
could be really detrimental.
Yeah. And even in the, I did a web series, and it was not, I mean, now watching it, it really just makes me cry and gives me shudders, because in the scene, my character's mother had just died. And now when I watch it, I'm like, oh my God. And I just went for it, and it was kind of funny because there were a couple of the characters that is supposed to see me. They're supposed to see me and react, and they didn't react on time because I was also directing the scene. And I'm like, all right, now I got to do it again. Go back, and I'm like, react faster. But yeah, it is that little spot that I'm able to get to sometimes. But I think the screaming's more fun.
I think Tiffany's screaming sounds like it's more fun, that erotic scream. How about you, Tiffany? Have you had to cry on camera?
On stage, yeah, from the beginning.
And is it easy for you to cry?
I had no choice, so I had to force myself into the situations.
Yeah, we have to, and it kind of reminds me of, again, talking about your book, is you have to put yourself into places that you really don't want to be to elicit that emotion. So that's what you have to do, Tiffany. You have to force yourself into that. And Kim, I mean, it seems like you're just at times reliving the real life stories that you've lived again and again.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I'm okay with it because I've learned how to let it go. At first, I didn't.
What do you mean by let it go?
Well, if I'm doing a scene, I worked with a fantastic acting instructor, Joe Polisi, and my scene partner and I were doing a scene from Requiem for a Dream. Very intense, very intense. And when we first did the scene, I didn't go there. I didn't go to that dark place. And so he wasn't very happy. So he said, are you committed? Do you want to do this scene? And I said, yes, I do. Yes, I do. And he said, then you need to let go. You need to let go and just let yourself go dark. And I did my research, though, because it was about drug addiction. And my boyfriend dealt with drug addiction. And Joe dealt with drug addiction. And so he knew firsthand. It's like, look, And so he says, I want you to do your research or do another scene. And I'm like, ooh, okay. So I did my research, and sometimes I don't need to pull from my own experience. It's just I really truly imagined and put myself in that position, and I don't know. It's I don't want to say magic, but it's just I let myself go there and got so deep into the scene that I remember at one point I slapped my scene partner's face. I slapped him in the face. That wasn't part of the scene, but I was just so into it because I was so much. I believed it. I was there. I was
Method acting,
dealing with
I love
it.
it.
Yes, exactly. I was there and we went with it and he went with it. I mean, I was, because he was supposed to come back with drugs and he didn't because there was a bust. So he came back with nothing. And here my character's freaking out, like trying to go through the couches, go through the container and try and lick anything and throwing up at the same time because, the withdrawals and what was happening. And she was so just angry and fixated that she was like, I'm going through his pockets in the front and back and this and his jacket and slapping him across the face. And I went there. And Joe was very impressed with my performance, which was huge for me. But I was in that dark place and I could not get out. I was just like still in this steep darkness and like everything.
How long did it take you to get out of that darkness?
Not long, because they were very supportive, because that's the one thing. And they said, oh, got to get her out. And so they made me laugh and try and just break it up and kind of wake it up or let it go. And I slowly learned. I just learned my own ways of like just getting out of the immediate environment of wherever I am. And even I do that now, even if I'm in a downer of a mood, that I just remove myself from my immediate environment, even if it's just going outside, playing with the dogs, or just going to the grocery store, or going to Marshall's or something, just to break it, just to get out and let it go and breathe, and not let it fester.
So, and I think you had mentioned this earlier, unless I'm creating it in my head, which I do that a lot. I create a lot of things in my head, but it's therapeutic. So you're using your arts, your writing, your acting, and it's therapeutic. So in one hand, you're using very emotional times in your life and you're redrawing that. But by doing that, it's probably therapeutic that allows you to accept and, like you said, let go.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
And so it helps you? It's therapeutic?
It does. Absolutely. Absolutely. When I'm doing a play or working on a movie or even with my writing, when I really get into it, even if I'm writing stories, I get elated. Even if I'm writing about something that was, very painful, it's a release. It's a release for me that it's like, oh, I feel a little bit better than I did 2 minutes ago. It's like, okay, I got it out, and I will reread it. I will read it and I go, oof, wow, that's pretty deep. That's pretty dark. Or, oh, that's neat. That's nice. And a family member of mine is battling alcoholism really bad.
Like right now?
Right now. Mm-hmm. And to the point where he has ostracized basically almost everybody in his family, including me. And it was extremely hurtful. It's still hurtful. And I took it really hard. But there are resources with people that are dealing with alcoholics as alcoholics, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. There's even Al-Anon. There's ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics, and so forth. And those programs really help deal with people with alcoholism. And it took some time to realize it's like, this is a disease. And it happened before where there was an incident and some words were said that were extremely hurtful. And I thought, you know what? He's got a disease. I don't necessarily forgive him all the way, but I understand. So I'll be civil. I'll be cool. I'll be there for him if he needs me, but I'm not going to enable him. But then it happened again. And that's when the term detach with love, where it's like, look, it's a toxic part of my life and it's not doing me any good. And until they're able to help themselves, it's like, I love you, but I need to let you go. Just you do your thing, because I can't. And circling back like with the pandemic, learning about certain people in your life, and it's like learning how, the toxicity, and it's like, oh man, not just because someone is quarantined, but even afterwards. And it after when we were able to go back out and learning, oh, you're a true person, genuine friend, whatever. But yeah, it's all about self-care. Self-care is like so important. And if there is someone in your life that is toxic, that is bringing you down, that is constantly hurting you in some way or another, you need to let that go. And it's painful. It sucks. But in the end, you're so much better because you got to take care of number one. Because that's in the end.
Well, if you can't take care of yourself, then you can't take care of anybody else.
Exactly.
Right? So you talked a lot about your creativity. So Tiffany, like, what about somebody, that's not in the arts, somebody who's not really necessarily creative, but they're going through a lot of challenges? I see where people that are in creative arts can use it for their craft. They can use it for therapy. But not everybody is in the arts, right? So what are some of the ways that somebody could, in a therapeutic way, other than just counseling? I mean, there's professional help, but in everyday life, how do people live with it, deal with it, endure it, overcome it? Because I think sometimes being creative helps that. And maybe people are creative in different ways, maybe in the business world, right? But artists can use it and they may have in some ways an advantage. But what if you're not in the arts? What are other ways that people can use their life experiences for the better?
If they're not in the arts, hopefully they'll be less sensitive. They feel less pain. Right? They feel less pain. And
Yeah, artists are very sensitive.
Yes.
I'm a very sensitive person.
Yes. I know.
So be careful what you say.
Exactly. I tried.
Okay. I'm
Yes,
yeah.
I know.
Okay.
I know how touchy and sensitive
I am.
you
I'm
are.
very touchy and sensitive. Yeah.
So like back to a person who's not in the arts and they need to experience, they need help to go through life, and they can go to regular therapy. That would help them.
But what about just every day though? Because if they're not
They can try
an
to be
artist, they're not,
spiritual. They can try to be spiritual, like positive thinking.
spirituality, faith.
Yeah, faith. To get up and say positive thinking. But there's a lot of self-help out there. Talk about, positive thinking and how it would enable you to accomplish what you want.
I try to do that. I look in the mirror and I'm like, you're just a great guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey,
And then, and
self-affirmation.
then I just look at myself and say, you're such a liar.
Oh, stop.
You're such a liar.
I think
And then I argue with myself. And I think that's where my personalities start to split. And I'll have some heated discussions with myself.
hey.
I will.
Yeah,
I'll be
I think my kid, when she was like less than a year old, she does that too. You know how little kids, they look in the mirror and they start talking to them,
Yeah,
and they
sure.
start arguing.
Well, what's interesting though is if you're a performer, a lot of times you'll either you'll put video on and you'll record yourself, or maybe even in the mirror. So as a performer, a lot of times you will converse with yourself in some ways. In some ways, it has nothing to do with art. You're just kind of like you want to just talk to yourself. Maybe it doesn't have to be in a mirror. It could be, and you start to say things, and then I'm stubborn, so then I'll start to argue with myself about it. Yeah, I like arguing with myself.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the inner conflict that I can use though as a performer as well.
There you go.
Yeah, in the conflict.
Maybe I'll even do a one-person show then.
Yeah, let's talk about some in the conflict around the world here.
Okay.
Huge rally pushes back at Israel reform protests. Tens of thousands of Israelis rallied in Jerusalem in support of the far-right government's plans to reform the Jewish. Pronounce it for me.
Oh, which one is it now? Hold on a second. I was listening, but where is it? Which one is it again?
This one right here.
But what's the first two words?
Huge rally pushes back.
Huge.
Israel,
Oh,
yeah.
huge rally.
Yep.
Okay.
To reform the
Jerusalem?
Yeah,
Jerusalem? Is that a word?
No, below that.
Jerusalem.
Below that.
Judiciary.
Judiciary.
Yeah, judiciary.
Which include curbing the Supreme Court and giving the government control over the appointment of judge. The rally was the biggest demonstration of its kind yet, and it faced opposition from huge weekly protests and a national strike against the reforms over the past 4 months.
That's
conflict. Deep conflict.
That is deep conflict.
You want to talk about the next one, the cat and mouse chase?
Let's let Kim read us a news story, and you decide. Now,
Let's
here's the
do
thing, though. Here's the
something-
game.
Oh,
Here's
yeah.
the game. There's always got to be a game and fun to it.
Okay.
So you're gonna pick one of the news stories, and
Okay.
you can choose to read it in a character voice. It can't be yours.
Okay.
So it could be a real life person that you feel you could impersonate.
great.
It could be from a character from a story. It could be a cartoon character, but you have to read it
Cartoon character.
in a character's voice.
Okay, go for it, Kim.
Catherine Zeta-Jones commands attention in sheer lace gown and sky-high heels. Catherine Zeta-Jones turned heads at a star-studded event in Hollywood on Saturday night. She wore a sheer black lace gown with a deep V-neck and a long train, and paired it with black heels and a matching clutch. She smiled and waved to the cameras as she arrived at the event.
Wow. I thought I was watching Entertainment Tonight.
Yeah.
That was phenomenal, actually. I felt like I was also watching Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, and Robin Leach is a female
Yes.
instead of a male.
Oh, Robin can go female or male, so
That's
there you go.
right. That's right. Wow, that was good. I like that. Very cool.
Thanks.
Lots going on in the news. What's going on?
Yes, there is.
What do you know about artificial intelligence?
Actually, a good friend of mine, her husband showed me one of the AI apps or programs. I don't know which one it was. It was very interesting, intriguing, and scary because what it was able to do was, one, it could write poetry. It's like, wait a minute, no, this has to be organic, not from a computer. But it also can write a script. It was so interesting. It's like he said, okay, it felt like I was doing Mad Libs. Okay, give me a noun, give me an adverb, give me a place, give me this, and give me a situation. And so I said, I don't know, greyhounds. I have 2 greyhounds. And, this. And it did like a one sheet of the script. I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. And it even did a query letter, which was really interesting because I thought, well, that's kind of neat because I'm sure, there's sometimes when you want to word it just correctly, and that's really nice. But it's scary to do the other stuff where it can put a lot of people out of business.
Yeah, I'm kind of scared about artificial intelligence. We talked, Tiffany and I, in depth many episodes. No, not many episodes.
Couple episodes.
A couple episodes ago, and I started talking about like Terminator 2, where the machines take over.
Right.
They become just as smart as people, where they can think 3 steps ahead and then say, well, let's eliminate humans, right? So artificial intelligence, I don't know yet if I'm sold on it. I mean, yeah, it works. I get it. But I don't necessarily want to live in a robotic, automated world. I mean, because then I might as well just be a microchip. I'm not. Right. I'm a human being. So there's got to be limitations. Let's read something here. Uncensored stable diffusion versions are a type of AI model that can generate realistic and high resolution images. Okay, all right, that sounds harmless. Based on text descriptions or sketches. They are called uncensored because they do not have any filters or restrictions. Okay. When I was a kid, I liked the word uncensored. Or restrictions on the type of images they can produce, including not safe for work, images that may contain nudity, violence, or explicit content. Now that to me is exciting. So that's kind of exciting. Stable diffusion is a technique that uses a series of random noise transformations to gradually refine an image from a blurry blob to a sharp and detailed picture. It is based on the idea of latent diffusion models, which are a type of generative model that can learn the distribution of natural images and generate new ones.
Now that I like. I think that part I like. I think that's really cool.
Uncensored stable diffusion versions are popular among some users who want to create these not safe for work images for personal or artistic purposes.
Oh, that's what I want, be able to use AI and create really good looking man.
Right, you were talking about it. Tell Kim your story or your fantasy.
Yeah.
I want a robot, a really nice looking robot. I can turn off and on and program it. And in the morning, he would cook breakfast for
There
me
you go.
and carry the tray and bring it to me, and he'd be incredibly sexy and handsome.
Of course.
And then you turn him off for a while.
Right, and then I go to work, so I'll go out and turn him off for a while, and then, program him, and either lunch or dinner, he do the same thing.
Right. Well, they talked about that, and I mean, they've had so many movies about that. They had, AI.
Yes.
AI with Haley Joel Osment a long time ago, and Jude Law was one of those that, I mean, he was a prostitute, but hey, and pretty good looking. Yeah, I think at that time, even when I saw that movie, and he put eyeshadow on, and I'm like, he actually looks really good with eyeshadow on.
Men do wear makeup.
Of course they do.
They don't talk about it. But guess what? When I was in college, I was studying fashion marketing. The research has shown that men makeup sell a lot more than women.
I know, and they probably look better too. I saw a guy wearing makeup over at the what do you call it? The farmers market over by the Grove, and he just had fantastic makeup. I'm like, oh my God, you're
I'm gonna
gorgeous.
check him out. We all there after this.
So, anyways.
I don't know what to say. I'm actually speechless. Pretty impressive for me.
In the colonial days, back in the day, Marie Antoinette, I mean, men wore more makeup than women.
Oh yes.
And, it was very, very interesting.
It is interesting.
Very interesting times.
It is. So I wanted to talk about this. So you and I were talking earlier today, and you were telling me, we were talking about your foot. And then, so now to explain to the audience, your post-production work, you do post-production work for Netflix?
Not necessarily. We work on a lot of different streaming platforms, anywhere from Netflix, Peacock, Amazon, Roku.
Give us some
variety.
shows that you're allowed to talk about that you've worked on post-production.
A League of Their Own, the series, Wednesday, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel,
Yes.
Sweet Tooth. There's a new show, Mrs. Davis, The Nun, looks fantastic. So those are just a few.
And then what's another show that you and I talked about that got my interest?
Well, that one, unfortunately, I can't talk about yet.
The cycling one?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all I can say.
But we can say that it has something to do with cycling.
Yes.
And you started to talk about your brother.
Yeah.
Tell me, and tell the audience, and tell Tiffany what you told me about your brother.
Yeah, my brother is an avid bicyclist. He's been for a very long time. And an incident happened about, over 5 years ago, probably longer. He was bike riding with this group of bicyclists. He was riding a brand new bike. The handlebars broke off. While they were going as fast. I don't know how fast you guys can go, because I know you do a lot of bicycling, but he was going pretty darn fast, and it broke completely off, and he face planted the asphalt, and it could have killed him. It could have killed him, and it turned out this was a new company that did not do the full quality control, obviously.
Lawsuit.
Oh, big time.
Of course.
Yeah, he had to have his mouth wired shut. He had to have a little bit of surgery done. But looking at him now, he's still gorgeous as ever. And he looks fantastic.
Good.
His teeth are great. He did have to get replacement. He lost a lot of teeth. But it was so incredibly frightening. So frightening. For me, God, I can only think of how my sister and my nephews, his sons, or just the nightmares that he had when that happened. But that was pretty frightening stuff. And you see those crashes in this show that I'm working on. And, they have their little, what do you call it? The
GoPro?
GoPro.
Yeah.
And you see there was this one rider. He almost died. I mean, he was hospitalized, and it is frightening. But what was interesting about this, too, is just seeing all the fans and how close they were able to get to these bicyclists. And I'm like, oh, my God, either they're going to, cause an accident or something like that. But, some insane stuff.
And they actually do. So, again, you're talking about professional cyclists in this case. We can't mention the project, but we're talking about professional cyclists. So I was an amateur cyclist, not professional. But the speeds, depending on if you're going flat or downhill, if you're going downhill, the speeds can go up to 70 miles an hour, right? Flats, 45 miles an hour if you're at pro level. So, yeah, if you fall off, it's dangerous. And in professional cycling, there's been many deaths where people will go off a cliff, and just crash down. Sometimes they just impact something, but every couple years there's a death in professional cycling. And then you're talking about in a peloton is what they call it, where you have a cluster of cyclists and they form in a group. It's called a peloton. And when you're that close, going that fast, you're centimeters away sometimes from the tire of another bike, and these tires are only about an inch wide. And they're going at those speeds, and it's very dangerous. And I wanted to talk about that because when I first got into cycling, I didn't realize what it was going to become for me. It became more of a meditation for me. to the point where I don't just use cycling as a physical activity. I use it as a mental activity, a spiritual activity. And I was first really brought into cycling by a very dear friend of mine who's a mentor to me. He's I use him for a lot of different things. He's kind of a mentor. He's a counselor. His name is Don Jones, and I told Don I would mention him on today's episode. Don brought me into the sport of cycling and taught me a lot of not just about cycling, but about the mental and spiritual aspect of cycling. And it's more than just riding a bike. And I'm not the only one. I mean, whether you're amateur, professional, it's more than just riding a bike. There's a lot of different meanings to it. I come up with a lot of creative concepts when I'm on my bike riding, stories that I write, or how I can develop a story. I think about my own life. I do a lot of reflection. And I'll probably go for a ride after the show today. And where I live, there's a lot of mountains, and I'll go out for 20 or 30 miles, and I'll ride. I was riding yesterday. So Dawn, I remember the first time I got on one of these races. This is a racing bike now. They're dangerous. We went down my first hill ever. It was down a mountain, and I was on the brakes the whole time. He took off, and I didn't see him again till the bottom, and I was like, at this point, I hadn't rode a bike since I was a kid. This was about 14 years ago. And I just squealed down all the way. And so, he kind of took me into the sport and what you need to do. And you have to, really to do this type of riding, you have to overcome fear. So the one thing I had to do first was overcome the fear of like dying, falling off my bike. Because we were going down a mountain, and this was in Pennsylvania, where I'm originally from. And it was about 2,000 feet, so that's a steep mountain. And, you're going about 40 plus miles an hour. And if you haven't rode a bike in a long time, and by the way, you're clipped in with these stirrups. So you're wearing cycling shoes, you're clipped in, you can't move your feet. You can't just pull your feet out. And so you have like your movement is in some ways stifled. You can't do certain things. So that's scary when you can't move your feet and just pull your foot off the pedal really quick. So you have to overcome fear. And then there's the endurance part, because it's different than running. You could only run so far, but you can go on a bike for 100 miles. Okay. So the endurance part of it is you're learning how your body reacts to physical endurance. And you go through different stages depending on how far you're riding and how fast you're going, and if you're going uphill. And you start to learn how your body reacts. And, you can train your body with your mind on how much you can endure. But I use it a lot for the mental and the spiritual part of it more than just the physical. And Dawn taught me how to do that. And what I learned was there's things that come out emotionally when you're going through physical activity. I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
Absolutely.
So when you're going through a physical endurance activity, there's weird things that come out in your head, and you become very emotional. It could be happy, it could be sad. And when I'm on my bike, I use that. And sometimes I'll go through a 360-degree emotional swing on one ride, if the ride is long enough, where I'll be happy, sad, angry. I use a lot of my anger when I'm riding, and I get my anger out and I expose it. Because when I'm riding too, I just don't want to ride, but I also want to progress my activity and time, my speed. So I use an app, it's called Strava, on my phone, and it tracks all my rides.
Oh, nice.
And I want to beat my previous time on that segment. But I'll use that anger, and anger comes out.
Okay, that's really, really dangerous and impressive at the same time. Because I like bicycle. When I was a kid, I would ride a lot, but around the circle, all right. And I still like to ride it. And where I live now, they don't have a bike lane, but I always wanted to get a bicycle. But you think that if I could ride around a lot, that would do any good?
Yeah, I think any kind of physical activity on a bike, I'm very big on biking. Not just because I'm avid, but I believe it has a lot of physical, mental, and therapeutic aspects of it. It's low impact unless you fall off or you get hit by a car or hit another bike. But other than that, it's low impact. So it's not really bad on your joints. Like running, I was a runner and I had to stop because of my knees. You can ride no matter how old you are. So it's low impact. And so whether you're just riding around the block or riding for sport, The motion of the pedaling and seeing things around you, I think, are very stimulating. So yes, I believe even if you're just riding slowly around the block, I believe it's therapeutic.
You wear a helmet? I know we don't have to since we're over 18, but you do. You must.
Yeah, I wear a helmet because I recommend everybody wearing a helmet, even if you're just riding around the block, because if you were to fall off, hit a curb or something, you could hit your head and it could be dangerous. But yeah, I do. Yeah, I wear a helmet. I wear what's called a cycling kit. It's called a kit, so it's the spandex that you would see professional cyclists wear, and sunglasses to protect my eyes.
I don't need the cycling. I can just wear a jean and
I think you would look good in spandex, though. Yeah.
What about shoes? Sneaker?
Well, no. So you can. Now, again, if you're just riding a regular, I'll call regular
Leisure bike.
Leisure bike, just sneakers. I ride. I have cycling shoes that have these stirrups on the bottom that clip into this special pedal that allows your foot not to pull off. So then, as you're pedaling around with your feet not coming off, it's like centrifugal force almost. You create more energy, more wattage, more spinning that allow you to go faster and more efficient.
So how do you stop? Let's say you ride, right, and you want to stop. What do you do?
I put the brakes on.
And then what about you?
So as you put the brakes on, it has brakes, and as you start to get to a crawl, you what's called unclip. So you just pull your heel out, and then your foot comes out of that stirrup.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Takes practice.
Pretty scary, and also if I have to buy a bicycle now, to ride around the block. And I like the pretty women, sissy-looking bike. Is that
You can do that, yeah.
acceptable? Yeah.
Again, I think biking is wonderful because anybody can do it. Any age, any size, any person is a wonderful sport.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be a quote-unquote sport even. It's leisure, but biking is very therapeutic. There's something about working your leg muscles and your glands in your body that a lot of people, as they get older, they fail to use their legs. And the deficiencies in your legs as life goes on could create a lot of problems with your whole body. And it creates issues with your core, with your back. So very important to keep your legs, as we get older, strong.
So like walking is the same way.
Walking is good too.
Aerobic
Yes.
exercise.
Hiking.
Jumping on a trampoline.
Yes. Using your legs, period. Because what happens is as we get older, we stop using our legs and they become weak.
No.
The other part of that is as we get older, your lung capacity diminishes if you don't maximize cardiovascular abilities. So as we get older and we do less and less activity, you use less of your lungs, and as you get older, you will lose lung capacity. So exercise to a point where you kind of get out of breath is important to keep your lungs strong.
I have asthma. So I do a lot of breathing, and I'm starting doing yoga once a week now.
Oh, that's great.
3 times already.
And
like
every
yoga.
now and then a couple erotic screams, and that's kind of like a sprint, if you will, for your lungs. A sprint.
Yes, I can practice it while walking home from work, on the highway.
There you go.
geez.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Hitchhiking.
No. I love walking. I love hiking. And once I can get this foot under control, I definitely can't wait to get back in the gym. And I mean, I feel the same way as not just with bike riding, like, just working out, even on the treadmill, especially if I've had a rough day. And I remember telling my sister that I was still agitated, and I'd be like, I have to be on the treadmill another 20 minutes because I still feel kind of, just gross, angry. And it's such a great release. But one thing I learned is when I'm on the elliptical, I'm able, for some reason, it relaxes my mind, and I would practice my lines for when I was doing a play. That's how for some reason, I learned my whole French monologue and everything while I was doing the elliptical. Mind you, I was at home. We have an elliptical at home, but I don't know if that would be kind of weird at a gym. Just all of a sudden,
Break out in a dramatic monologue.
Blah blah blah.
Do it.
But no, I'm not about to speak French right now. I pretty much I haven't spoken French probably since the play, and all I know now are just the most smallest amounts of words, and then I know slang. So
Slang.
that won't do us any
Is
good.
it dirty
here.
slang?
It's dirty slang.
Ooh, that's the best kind of French slang. Dirty.
Those words, yeah.
Filthy, dirty slang.
Filthy, dirty.
Speaking of filthy, dirty, I was talking earlier in pre-show that I'm working on a podcast called Bathing with Sloan, and talked to George about it, talked to Tiffany about it, talked to you about it, talked to many people.
And I love the idea.
Spoke to my wife about it, and it's going to be Bathing with Sloan, and we're going to have a bathtub, and we will do a podcast in a tub. It'll be a large tub, bubble bath, some candles, maybe some wine, and clothes are optional. And I mean, my guests could wear clothes. If they're offended with me not wearing clothes, I'll put clothes on. It depends if they don't want it. But the goal is you'll bathe with me during the show, and it'll be relaxing.
There you go.
Oh, yes.
We'll talk about the same subject matter, but we'll be relaxed in a warm bubble bath with Chris Sloan.
Exactly.
And
I love it.
We'll have guests. And then for those of you out there, fans, if any fans would like to bathe with me, write our show. Write filter 90211 and say, yes, I would like to bathe with Chris Sloan, because we're working on it. It's not ready for release yet, but we are going to work on bathing with Sloan. So what do you think, Kim?
I think it sounds pretty exciting and very fun, but it has to be with a clawfoot tub.
It will be.
Exactly.
It'll be a clawfoot, old-fashioned tub. It's going to be very classy, because I'm a classy kind of guy.
Exactly.
Very classy.
And I love my bathing suits. I collect them.
So, Kim, would you be on my show?
Sure, of course.
Excellent.
I
Okay.
would love it.
Okay, good. And wrapping up the cycling thing. So I mentioned a very good friend of mine, Don Jones, who watches every episode of this show. And he critiques it and critiques me and everything. And he was critiquing me a lot yesterday, texting me. Thanks, Don. But the thing about cycling and riding bikes, and you need to ask your brother this,
Yes.
it's very true, is that there's a lot of camaraderie that goes on amongst cyclists. And there are many long rides Don and I would take, and we would just talk about life. So we wouldn't be maybe going so fast that we couldn't talk. Sometimes we would, but sometimes we'd slow it down and we'd just start talking about life. And like I said, there's something about being in nature and being on a bike, and then you could just talk about anything. Good, bad, it could be something you're trying to overcome. It could be a challenge. Don and I talked a lot about dark moments in our lives on a bike. And it was very therapeutic. So you need to talk to your brother about it, because on these long rides, you get to bring out things. It's sometimes it's therapy. And again, sometimes I do it by myself, but if I'm with people.
Yeah, that's what we
And
do.
Don brought a
Kids,
lot
we
out
say a lot
of me on
circling
bikes.
Things come out. And by the way, how many speed of a bicycle I should get? I'm not a pro like you.
Whatever speed you want. There's so many different.
Like 3, 7, things like
They,
that. I don't plan to go
they,
fast.
they typically come in 10 speeds.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't
So
want to go fast.
what's nice about having those options is that, if you're going down on a regular level type of pathway, you have a lot more choices, because if you want to go a little bit faster, you can click up to the next speed, right? You don't have to pedal as much, right? But by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I want to apologize for my latest. In case you missed it, there's a dragnet of police cars just outside the building here, and a lot of the Wilshire Boulevard has been cut off.
I was wondering what was going on out there.
Yes,
Yes,
what was going on?
That's why I was late.
Yes,
just
Are
so
they
you
filming,
understand.
In
or is
LA?
there?
Yeah.
Are they filming something?
No, I don't think that they're filming something. It
I hope
looks
something
like
bad didn't happen.
yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully it wasn't another shooting or something like that.
No, there's strange things going on, but in New York, not here.
Uh-huh.
Listen to this. The cheesecake was poisoned. The passport was stolen. The sentence is in 21 years for attempted murder. Victoria Nasiroya, a Russian woman living in New York, was convicted of trying to kill her lookalike friend Olga Tavix with a drug-laced cheesecake and steal her identity. She was sentenced to 21 years in prison on Wednesday.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
I was wondering what you were reading there, because I have something totally different here.
Yeah, each of us have different things. And another one in New York City is New York City is waging a war against rats. Meet the women leading the charge. Caroline Bragdon is the director of neighborhood interventions at the New York City Health Department's Pest Control Services. She oversees a team of inspectors and exterminators who are trying to reduce the city's rat population. by educating residents and businesses on how to prevent and eliminate rodent infestations. Oh, now that sounds like a good idea. If there's a lot of
Forgive me,
rats.
but I almost thought you were going to say that they're trying to mitigate the problem by educating the rats.
Educating residents.
You know, with the way crazy things are going on these days, wouldn't be surprised if it comes to that. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, something that may not be about rats, but we can segue like bats, but it's not necessarily a bat. But let's talk about this dude on an airline passenger that was arrested for carrying a self-defense weapon known as a vampire straw through security at Boston's Logan International Airport. Armin Akithon Nair was detained on Sunday and charged with carrying a dangerous weapon in Massachusetts State Police said. A vampire straw, I've never heard about this. It's a metal tube with the sharp spikes on both ends. It can be used to stab or pierce an attacker. Oh. That's just crazy.
Ooh.
But didn't we talk about vampires? Not about vampire
so
straws, but...
We were talking about horror movies. So we talked about dark stuff in pre-show. And, as soon as you mentioned that you kind of like horror movies,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh, we got to hang out. Then we started talking about vampires and talk about Bram Stoker and Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee
Vincent
and
Price.
the classics and Bloodsuckers. But we started talking about, horror movies and ghost movies, ghost stories.
Yes.
So we're kind of all in a line with that, you and I, about all that. I just want to quickly go around the horn. Favorite horror movie or ghost movie?
Well, which one? You want a ghost movie?
Well, for some people, they don't like horror. They're more
I
into
prefer
ghosts.
ghosts if I have to.
Yeah.
Because I know that a friend of mine who created a ghost movie called The Housemaid.
Oh.
And when they premiered it, I was sitting behind him, but I was cussing him out throughout the movie because I was so scared.
So what's your favorite?
I guess I have to call it ghost because horror movie is just too much for me.
And what's the movie?
The Housemaid.
The Housemaid.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Vietnamese American.
Okay.
It's good though. It's really good. Cool.
Okay. Kim?
I love Bram Stoker's Dracula. I love it. I love it so much because there's such a combination of, you got the horror element, you've got the romance element, and you've got the thrills, and you've got Gary Oldman. Oh my goodness, just Gary Oldman. He could have done the show. He could have done a one-man show on that, and it was so fantastic. And just to put my 2 cents, I'm very fortunate. I feel very fortunate that I met his great grandnephew Dacre Stoker back in October, and he is an amazing man. He's also an author. He's come out with quite a few books, and but I would say Bram Stoker's Dracula for sure.
Your turn.
Well, I thought it was going to be you next because she started out and then she started out, so I thought that you were next in line here around the circle here.
You can go.
Yeah.
You go.
Well, I have several favorites. It's kind of hard to pick.
And,
pick the one I like.
and you just kind of showed up, so tell the world who you are.
Oh, I thought they already knew who I was. I'm sorry. Name is
But we didn't officially announce you, so you could announce yourself.
Okay. Name is Sean Francis, and I've been.
And Sean will jump in on our shows at time to time. So
I will jump in. When the
Don't touch it at all. Just leave it like that.
Sean is now being yelled at by George, the producer. Do not touch your microphone.
Yeah, I've
Don't
heard that.
touch
I've heard that before.
yourself.
I keep forgetting about that for some odd reason. It's just so tempting to touch it.
So Sean will join us many times, and
Sure.
he just pops in.
I do pop in, and it's because I have a prior commitment on Sunday.
You're good. Beautiful.
Just that celery stick that's coming out. That's all. No, perfect. Your teeth are perfect.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
George, I want my own theme song.
Nothing wrong with Bolero because it's like, it's a very sexy song.
Which one?
Bolero. That's our theme song. And Chris has a problem.
I got a lot of
He's very funny.
Okay, you're on, Tiffany.
Now?
Yeah.
Just tell me when.
When?
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Filter 90211. I'm Tiffany Rothman with my amazing co-host Chris Sloan. And we have a wonderful special guest is joining us. She's an incredibly talented actress who just worked with the one and only Catherine Zeta-Jones. Please welcome the amazing Kim Marie Farris to the show.
Thank you.
Hi, Kim.
Hi.
Hi.
How was your week?
Very good. Very good. Very active.
Good. Chris?
It was a good week. Yeah. Any week that allows me to be here on Sunday was a good week. So here I am. It was a good week.
Productive?
It was. It's always productive. Yes.
That's good to know.
Was your week productive?
Yes, I had 4 auditions.
Nice.
You're a rock star. Every time I talk to you, you have like, oh, I got 7 auditions, 4 auditions.
And
You're killing it.
well, we'll see. And then on Friday was the anniversary of the day that I left Saigon 48 years ago.
How did that feel
Oh,
to
it's
think about it?
a lot of memories. We just flew out peacefully. We were lucky. And an hour and a half later, they bombed the airport. So I guess I must be very blessed.
Absolutely.
And yesterday was International Dance Day. Of course, that's really bring back a lot of memories of my performance. And today is the day that South Vietnam surrendered to the North 48 years ago.
There's a lot going on the last couple of days for you. It probably makes you very appreciative, doesn't it?
I guess so. I'm
'Cause you've-
always trying to be appreciative and grateful for what I have so I can be happy.
Yes, yes, but that's a lot to think about in the last 3 days. That's a lot of heavy weight, a lot of emotional weight. Yeah.
Yep. So, maybe we should read this. Emotional way. Speaking about emotional, maybe this could help us. Discover a new path to inner peace with Shirley's spiritual yoga meditation healer, chakra balancing, energy cleansing, and more. Call 424-542-9070 now for a free consultation and start your transformation today. All forms of payment accepted.
Absolutely. Our sponsor, Shirley.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
You
I'm
next.
excited to have Kim here. So Kim and I have been communicating for several weeks to line her up for today's show. And I was so excited to have her on the show that last week I sent her a message. So are you ready? And she's like, yeah, but it's not until next week. So I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. My bad. But I was so excited to have her that I thought she was going to be on last week. But she's on this week. So now, finally, you're here, Kim.
Yes. I'm very happy
Thank
to be
you.
here.
And she's a soldier because she's a bit injured and she still is here. If you want to tell the story.
Yes, your foot injured. Was that in the movie?
No, it was a very funny freak accident. Just getting ready for work very early in the morning. And I had to be at work at 6 a.m. And I was going full speed ahead and completely forgot there was a credenza right there. And my barefoot went right into the lake. So I fractured my toe, probably a little bit of the other toe, and probably a little bit of my foot. And so I have to wear this lovely cumbersome boot in the meantime. And it's a drag, I won't lie.
Talk about waking up in the morning. That'll wake
Yeah,
you up,
right?
stubbing your toe like that. I mean,
Definitely.
like sometimes I'll just hit the corner of something with my toe, my big toe. And man, like you see stars.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was trying to hold the pain in. I'm like,
Did you hear anything crack?
Oh,
not necessarily, but I knew once I put my shoes on and walking at work, I thought, oh, I broke it. I know I did. And yeah, I was right.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Oh, thank you. I am too.
And I'm not surprised because after talking with you in our pre-production show, I could just tell already that you're a trooper, and it sounds like there's nothing you wouldn't do to get the job done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thanks
That's
for being here.
very admirable.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. And so Kim is a poet. Okay, she's a writer, a poet. She's an actor. She's a
You're good. Beautiful.
just that celery stick that's coming out. That's all. No, perfect. Your teeth are perfect.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
George, I want my own theme song.